This week on This is Gravel, we have Bleeding Kansas, we have Aaron Oppel, we have social media, and we have what's going on locally.
And wasn't someone on the top of a podium this past week?
What's a podium? Hey, welcome to This is Gravel. I am Bobby Thompson, and with me today is...
Neil Taylor.
I don't know why I said a day. You're always with me.
I'm always with you, Bobby.
Every week.
Every day.
Every hour. Every minute. Looking through my windows at night. Neil,
Sorry.
what's going on with your life?
Oh, riding some bikes. It's been nice to actually get out this past week and do a little riding for myself, actually. Been really busy with the high school kids and getting out and riding with them, and still did a lot of that this past week. But it was nice to go and get probably at least a good 50 miles just for me,
right?
Which is something I haven't been able to do.
Your own cadence, your own right.
Yeah, and so it's been nice to do that. It's been nice to ride with the kids too. We got a group of them out early Saturday morning. Actually, before the sunrise, we were out probably about 10 minutes before sunrise.
We're up and awake before
they wanted to ride that early. Yeah, I didn't figure high school kids would want to be up at about 6:45 riding bikes, but they were excited for it, and so.
Did you get Isaac from the shop out there that early?
Isaac was out there.
And he went to work after that.
Yes, and he went to work afterwards, and we got out and did 22 miles that morning. It was a good time. It was the longest ride for some of those guys already, so they were excited about it. They want to keep going a little bit further, but when you start really cresting over 20 miles, nutrition something you got to think about, and that's something that we're going to be talking about over the next few weeks when we meet together, is kind of teaching them about nutrition, because for 20 miles it was probably a half a bottle of water to a bottle of water for most of them, and a goo. Yeah. And when you start...
A goo,
yes. And so when you get going much further than that, they're going to need more to sustain.
Right, so basically they just need some sugar in the bikes a little bit, yeah.
And so we had a conversation about that, and eventually I think we'll probably see them progressing. I mean, a lot of the kids really do want to ride long, but we've also got, some kids too. We had a girl that it was her first time ever on a bike.
Very cool.
I mean, this past week. And so, 14, 15-year-old kid, first time being able to ride. And, that takes patience and learning. But she picked it up really quick. And by the end of our short ride that we did, she was riding all over the place. And
Very cool.
It was awesome.
There's something to mention that now that we don't ask for things that often, but if you do have any old pieces of cycling accessories that you want to get rid of, you might reach out to Neil. They are always in need of something out there.
Yeah, definitely.
I know I talked to a girl the other day who was pretty excited about getting a jersey.
Yeah.
Just little things, anything. So you might reach out to Neil on that. So.
Yeah, definitely, because we do need a lot of stuff. I mean, my basement right now has a lot of stuff that has been donated, which I'm thankful for everybody that has reached out so far and done that. But we do have kids of all sizes, all shapes, that need jerseys, that need other things, and so
bike bags, I imagine.
Yeah.
When you get into nutrition, you're going to need some bags.
Absolutely.
Bottle cages,
all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so there is definitely a need out there. So folks do have stuff. Helmets.
Oh, yeah.
Kids don't have helmets. You got old helmets laying around. I had 2 old ones that I tossed in with the stuff, but things like that are definitely needed. So we would appreciate that. Reach out to me.
And even if it's too far here, look locally and see if there's a bike program in your area there that you can donate to. It's always worth donating something to help get more kids on bikes.
For sure. So speaking of this past week, Bobby, did you have any fun this past week?
I played some disc golf.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it was pretty good. Played some disc golf, rode my fat bike. It was my daughter's birthday. So yeah, I had a great week.
Anything else go on by chance? I mean, I don't know why. I feel like maybe something else happened this weekend.
Yeah, I went down to Bleeding Kansas Gravelduro in Manhattan, Kansas. Aaron was on last week, talked about it. New event. 110 mile gravel ride, and 7 time segments during the thing. 110 mile or 50 something mile ride. So somehow I accidentally won the thing. I'm not sure how that happened. Aaron checked my bike before the event and made me take the motor out of the bike. So I didn't even have the normal motor that I have. So I had to get out there and pedal under my own power. And
it must have been tough.
Everyone knows I've talked about it before. I've been training this year a little bit and riding a little bit faster, a little bit better. And it just happened to be one of those type of events that played to my strengths. There were some good riders out there, so I don't want to make too light of the ride because a lot of people put in good, hard efforts, and I was just lucky enough to come out on top that day. So it was neat. I really, I'm going to be a big fan and a big promoter going forward of a format like this. I would encourage you to, do some, even in your own hometown, do some 30 or 50 mile races of this type. On the cheap, you could do Strava. Use Strava for the Strava segments during the ride. It was fun. I rode with a group of friends from Emporia. We were able to just hang out the entire day, ride 14, 15 miles an hour before the segments, which is not a casual pace, but for us, it's a low casual pace. And then, you saw the segment coming up, you slammed it hard, rode as hard as your body would allow you to, and at the end, you waited for your buddies, and then you rode to the next segment, because it didn't matter how long it took you to get between the segments. Nice. So if somebody wanted to stop and take off an article of clothing, take time to eat the bar a little bit more, a lot of these 100-mile events, you feel like you got to push yourself so hard all the time, whether you say you're going to before it or not, you feel like you need to. And even eating a bar, it gets hard to do because you've been pushing yourself so hard. It doesn't come into play here. Stop, take your time, take some pictures, take some selfies, laugh about it, roll on to the next segment.
And on a day like Saturday, I'm sure it was nice to have that time to change your clothes and not have to worry. Because, in the morning, at least when we got out with the high school kids, it was 45 degrees here in Emporia.
Yeah, it did. I actually started off with knee warmers. I had a jacket. I had gloves. And we had a time trial within the first couple miles, and I rode through that. And, of course, that immediately got you warmed up. So I'm sitting here riding along, and I'm thinking, I have before taken my knee warmers off while I'm riding. And it's kind of sketchy. I was getting ready to do it. And it dawns on me, what am I doing? Just stop. So I just stopped, pull over, told the guys I'd catch up with them before the next segment, and took time to do everything. It didn't matter because you're not on the clock.
Nice.
So totally different type of event. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Thanks, Aaron, for putting that on, Aaron, and all the volunteers. There was a ton of volunteers, and they made it fun. So
awesome. Sounds like a good time. Sounds like something definitely I missed out on.
Yeah.
But, you can do only so much, but definitely looking forward to it next year because it sounds like it was a hit the first year. And,
I'm glad I won it this year because I have a feeling that it's going to grow over the next couple of years, and sometimes it's good to get in on the ground floor. That way, in 5 years when Ted King wins the event and they show the past winners, I'll be right there, and say, hey, I won this thing back in the day. So it was fun.
Cool.
Matt got a chance to talk with Aaron at the event, and we're going to hear what Aaron had to say.
Hey, good morning, Gravel Guru fans. We are up in Manhattan, Kansas this morning on Saturday at the Bleeding Kansas Gravelduro. Here with my wife, Madeline. Just getting ready to check out this race this morning. A cool 50 degrees to start the day.
Given day. So be deal that we've got going on. We have, all right, so detail, you have a few miles to kind of shake your
I'm expecting a fun group ride with some hard sections. And hopefully not wreck on the downhills. So, it'll be fun. It's going to be a fun day.
Weather. Thank God for beautiful weather. Going to see some new terrain today, some new roads. Enjoy yourselves. Come back and eat pizza, drink beer.
Just like that, they're off a little early this morning. We're going to head out on course and see if we can catch them out there. So far, a good morning out here. We're right down here at Pillsbury Crossing, just outside Manhattan, and most of the riders have been through the little water crossing here. It's still a little chilly this morning, and some riders figured out how slippery the moss can be out here on this rock. Hey everybody, we're out here about mile 26, 28 on the Bleeding Kansas Gravelduro. It's about 10 o'clock in the morning, and one thing I'll say is it's not like the typical race we're used to covering because it's the Gravelduro. There's about a handful of time spots that get added together for your final time today. So between those segments, you know, people just riding in groups, casually riding, so it's not this like urgent rush to the next spot to stay in front of the leader, so having a good time out here. I will say, one of the more unique experiences I've had at a gravel race was, kid you not, we just had a tractorcade of like 50 antique tractors come by out here on the gravel road. So that was a unique experience out here on the gravel.
Exciting, it was fun. People had a unique experience. I think it was a lot of, not confusion, but just like to wrap your head around not being timed on the complete loop. I think was a really interesting concept for people. In the grand scheme of things, it was a lot to manage from a promoter standpoint, but I think we did a pretty decent job. The feedback that I have gotten is, you know, we mentioned earlier, the concept was hard for people to kind of grasp. But what the stories that I kept hearing were, this is a gorgeous course. The people out here who are riding gravel are phenomenal. I had such a great conversation. I don't think that that's any different from any other event. I think every event has some stellar terrain that they're riding through, you know, like a beautiful area, and there's amazing people racing. But as gravel racing has grown, we've kind of lost track of getting your head up and looking around and talking to the person next to you. And what I have heard is this event kind of helped bring that back in.
Middle button, and then there's the camera.
All right, sweet. Thanks, Aaron, for that. So, Bobby, talk a little bit about this format. I mean, you mentioned before we watched that video that there was something right out the gate. I mean, were you having segments up till like the last 10 miles of this, or how was this done exactly?
Yeah, it's kind of cool. So officially, there's one time trial segment, there's one KOM climb segment, and there were 5 descent segments. I will say that 2 of those descent segments were actually, there was a short descent, steep descent that went into like a 3-mile flat-ish segment. So a mini time trial really at the end of a descent. Some of the descents were pretty sketchy. One guy actually went off. He didn't time it just right. If you're going down too fast, and they warned you before that one was going to be, you know, tricky. He went into the barbed wire fence, you know, tore his arm up, tore his leg up out of the ride. So you had to be a little bit careful. There was a couple where I squeezed the brakes a little hard and kind of skidded a little bit around the corner, you know, that kind of thing. So the descents were fun, but yeah, that's exactly what it was. Right out of the gate, about 3 miles into the ride, you have a 2-mile long time trial. Which, if I had anything to do differently, it'd be kind of cool to see that spaced out a little bit more, because we were in a large group, and it's really hard to do a time trial when you're 4 or 5 wide across the highway and you don't want to cross the yellow line. But it was still fun. It got you warmed up pretty quick. You went from the time trial to a 1.5 mile KOM ascent, which was not super steep. Parts of it had a couple steep areas, but most of it was just a long, steady...
Lengthy. I mean, a mile and a half.
And a long, steady incline, so it was constant pushing. That separated people out immediately, obviously. So once you got there, it really separated the groups out. And the descents were what they were. We had a group of 3. And especially for we really didn't know the course at all, so we didn't know how long a descent would be. We just knew it was coming up. So we made sure and gave each other, 100 feet in between each other, so that way their chances of catching and having to pass on those corners were pretty nil when she started going down there. So, there was a section that for 4 miles, the last segment was 4 miles from the finish line. So you had a segment that led you across the finish line. So I knew going into that segment that I wanted to still be at max power coming across that finish line, because obviously we were talking the whole day thinking that due to the short length of some of these segments, you're really not going to have that much of a time gap or even the faster or the slower riders. I mean, you're right there. It's a descent. It's how hard you want to hit the thing. So we knew those 4 mile longer segments were going to play a big part at the end, and we just hit them as hard as we could. I think my max speed for the day was right at 44 miles an hour coming down one of the descents on that last segment. Average like 28 miles an hour for like 4 miles, and it was a blast.
How was it, just out of curiosity, the fact that you're out there and you really don't know where you sit while you're racing? I mean, usually you can look and you can say, okay, this many people are ahead of me or this many people are behind me.
Right.
You're really in the dark.
Which added to the fun of the day, because you have no idea where you're at, and there's no sense in worrying about where you're at. And so all you do is when you see a segment coming up, you hit that one particular segment as hard as you can, and when it's over, there's nothing more to think about. You just ride to the next, enjoy the scenery, take some pictures and ride to the next segment. You can't worry about, you can't go back and do it again.
Yeah.
I mean, that was your segment and that was it, and you did the best you could, and now you ride to the next one. You hope at the end of the day that everything adds up. I think it would totally take away from the event if you knew where you were at throughout the day. I don't want to see, like, at a golf course, you see leaderboards throughout the day. You don't want to see that. You just want to ride each segment as hard as you can and then relax and roll on to the next one. The halfway point, everyone was sitting around chilling. We got there and they were probably, I bet there was 25, 30 people just sitting there chilling. If you had to use the restroom, you use the restroom. If you take your time to get your water bottles, there was no NASCAR style.
No in and out in 30 seconds.
Running, hopping on your bike, just chill. So, and when you roll out, anytime you stop for a little while, you get concerned that it takes you a while to get your legs back. So you don't want to stop very long. It doesn't matter how long it took you to get your legs back, because the segment wasn't for another 15, 20 miles. You had plenty of time to get your legs back underneath you. So, very cool.
One last question I want to ask you about it. You knew your effort during the day. Mm-hmm. Were you surprised at the end when you found out that you were on that top spot?
Yeah, I was very surprised. So it was pretty cool, because we roll in and we're just chatting, having a good time, and we knew there was a good handful of really good riders there, and who beat us by over an hour, and everything, and they had great efforts for the day. And friends, Mike Marchand was there, great guy, I love Mike, and they were just kind of talking amongst themselves, and you could hear over little conversations around you, and you're thinking, wait a minute, maybe we did something good today, and at one point I think Aaron Oppel came over and had this really weird look on his face and was just like, if you win this, I'm going to be surprised. I kind of laughed and walked on. I'm like, what? And so, but you still don't have an easy way to go calculate any data. Yeah. So even then, you're sitting there, you have no idea. You're just waiting for. So the neat thing about it is, everyone waits around for the podium calls.
Yeah.
Because you truly do not know if you're on the podium until they do the podium call. So that's another neat aspect.
And it is one of those things, you got to really wait for everybody to come in. Even if somebody comes in an hour behind you.
That last person could win the entire event.
Yeah.
If he chose or she chose to just chill out the whole day and do 10 miles an hour, which was the cutoff, but they nailed the segments, that very last person across the finish line could be the winner of the day.
Yeah.
And that's what's pretty cool about the thing. So usually you have a podium stand and half or 2/3 of the people have gone home for the day, because you know who's won.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't care, I'm going to head home. But there's still this built-up anticipation of the event that day, and that was pretty cool.
Sweet. So, sounds like a good event.
Very cool. So we roll from that. That's in the past now. I got to stand on a podium, so we did that. So moving forward, we have some local events coming up.
Yep.
You have one or two or three on your schedule?
We got at least Lap the Lakes and Jagger. Those are two.
Lap the Lakes is here in Emporia, Kansas.
Yep.
Jagger is in Eskridge.
Yep.
Okay.
So definitely looking forward to both of those. And
single speed, both of them?
Yeah, because I don't have a geared bike right now. So, but I'm,
for the record, I have bikes that I've offered he can ride.
There are bikes out there that I can get on that do have gears,
Right.
and it is definitely in the equation maybe at some point moving forward, but at this point I'm still going to use what I got.
Okay.
I'm comfortable on that bike, and so if I go out and I do 125 miles at Lap the Lakes, I want to know that I'm comfortable on the bike I'm on. So
The Lap the Lakes is 125-ish. We haven't
100K,
seen the
200K,
official,
yeah.
right, official release of the map yet, but that's here in Emporia, Kansas on October 13th. And then we have Jagger is in Eskridge. That is on October 27th. And that one is a 3-loop.
Yep.
19 miles per loop.
13 miles
13
per
miles
loop,
per loop race.
yeah. Right around 40 miles total.
Right. And there are other events. We have Rush the Rails.
Rush
It's
the Rails,
October
yep.
6th. And from Osawatomie to Council Grove. I'm sure that there are other events that are skipping my mind right now. But there are lots of fall events coming up.
Oh yeah, no, there are so many events coming up. I mean, it's crazy because you sit back and you're like, what do I do sometimes?
Right.
Because you want to do all of them, or your friends are putting them on, and it's like, got to pick and choose.
Right.
And so I've done Jagger probably each year for the past 4 or 5 years. And then I've not been able to make Lap the Lakes the last 2 years, the first 2 years that Joffers put on that race, because I've had 2 weddings, producer Matt's wedding and some friends of ours' weddings that I've had to perform. And so, weddings outrank races sometimes. So got to do what you got to do.
That's right. I remember producer Matt actually told me to go ride Lap the Lakes one year instead of going to the wedding, if I remember right? Yeah. He was like, go do that. And I was like, okay. You don't have to tell me twice. I'll go riding. So.
But as you mentioned, a lot of races, a lot of things going on. I think, as always, we got some sweet social media submissions.
Right.
I was looking through those here before we were doing the show. I think I even saw some flying in from Costa Rica. So,
Oh, that's awesome.
let's go check those out.
Cool.
Hey, thank you to everybody that submitted photos using the hashtag #ThisIsGravel. One quick reminder, we have a full gallery up from the Bleeding Kansas Gravelduro up on our Facebook page and our website at gravelguru.com. Jumping into our social media, Matthew Anderson submitted this photo riding the Chief Standing Bear and Big Blue River Trails, Beatrice, Nebraska to Marysville, Kansas, said it's a lot of variety of scenery and they highly recommend the trip. Jeff Kirklove submitted this photo of the hard Scrabble Humper mixed terrain out in Colorado. What an awesome place to ride it looks like out there. Greg Gleason sent in this photo from an autumn gravel tour across the South Dakota prairie. Vince Noble was out exploring the trails around South Central Ohio. Fabrice sent in this photo near Vexin, north from Paris, France. Natasha said they were just out enjoying the great fall weather this weekend near Lyons, Kansas. Our buddy Louise down in Costa Rica sent in this photo of riding around the mountains in Costa Rica. Thank you to everybody that submitted photos using the hashtag #ThisIsGravel.
All right, thank you for submitting your pictures. As always, continue to send us where you ride, events that are near you. Don't be afraid to tell us events that are near you. Send it to This Is Gravel, Gravel Guru, Minister of Gravel, or whatever I'm called today.
Casual cyclist
type dude. Locally, I do want to say a ride that means quite a bit to a lot of us here in Emporia is November 4th is the Emporia Freedom Fest, which is our Veterans Day ride. Helps to support the All Veterans Memorial in Emporia, Kansas, which happens to be the founder of
Veterans Day.
Founder of Veterans Day. I don't know if you all knew that or not. So that's kind of cool, a little historical tidbit about Emporia. So it has a 16-mile family ride, a 40-mile fun ride, which always turns into a race if you're in the top 10 because that's how we ride bikes. But it's a fun ride. Dynamic Disc also participates in they have a little mini tournament in the morning. They're going to have an actual sponsored tournament in the afternoon. And then we also have what's called the Spur Challenge, which takes a 5K run, 40-mile bike ride, and a skills challenge to win a Spur honorary Spur badge. There's also a 5K run in the morning. So I forget that some people actually like to run. That's just crazy.
Who would do that?
Right. But
oh yeah, that's right.
Kudos to you. That's really all I got for today. What do you think?
That sounds good.
Sounds
man.
good. All right. We'll see y'all next week.